Welcome to the Be Meaningful podcast, an unrehearsed, unscripted conversation about a real brand in real time, with Brian and Bogey, the founders of Meaningful, an agency that helps brands find a meaningful place in the world. Season 3 begins with Brian and Bogey talking with Andrew Curtis, CEO of Clearco, a company that uses AI to invest in e-commerce startups. They discuss the tension between tactical and brand messaging, and weigh both the functional and emotional benefits founders experience when operating capital allows them to focus on scaling their business instead of paying bills.
Andrew, again, thank you so much for joining us on this.
Of course. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Group hug. So, Andrew.
Yes.
You're with a company that will only hire somebody named Andrew? No, that's like a bad joke. But
terrible joke. This is why
I know
we don't do
know.
jokes. Why, Brian?
I don't know, because I'm a buffoon. But we have been kind of aware of Clearco, Clearbanc beforehand, and just thought it was very cool, the idea that you don't take equity, but you help fund and help businesses grow. And I think the thing that was really striking was that AI removes the human bias in funding. And that was a beautiful human interest story, we thought.
Yep.
I mean, right now with AI out there, and how people are talking about AI, that was ahead of the curve, and what a beautiful story, to throw in the mix.
Yeah, indeed. And I would say Clearco's unbiased approach long predates the ascendance of AI. So we've been doing this really for years, going back to 2018 when we really started focusing on providing founders capital to grow their business without, as you said, being forced to give up equity and give up ownership in your baby. So we've been doing it for ages, and AI makes it easier, but Clearco's always been doing it. That's always been our focus.
Right. Recently we looked at the website, and what you mentioned kind of explains it, is you have the Invoice Funding product. Mm-hmm. And so when you land on the website, it's like, boom, there it is, right? H1 feature panel. It's about that. Yep. Why the focus on that? And the reason I'm asking, it might be obvious, but I'm wondering a little bit, because what struck me when I saw that was it felt like you could have a lot of priorities and a lot of goals as a business owner, but the very near, like, hair on fire thing is like, pay your invoices.
Sure.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it felt so immediate. But it's tied to a product, and I'm just trying to figure out the focus on that product. Why the focus on that product?
Yeah. So, I mean, all founders and all businesses, they have bills to pay, right? Simply put.
Sure.
And so the Invoice Funding product is really a way for them to fund capital from Clearco for very specific, discrete uses. So instead of saying, oh, I'll just give you a pile of money and you'll figure out how to use it and when to use it, instead they say, okay, I've been speaking to Clearco. Clearco thinks I have this kind of capacity, like a total number, a total dollar amount that they might advance to me. So I know what that number is, but now I'm actually going to start paying invoices, and I'm going to start taking advantage of that headline number, for lack of a better description, that capacity number. And so what we found is that customers love the ability to, allocate our capital to specific, very important business uses. So, and by the way, the invoices could be any number of things. You could be paying Google and Meta. You could be paying shipping, freight, and handling, or you could be paying, of course, for inventory. So we really we're not allowing our customers to pay, say, their payroll or their rent with our capital, but they are paying the things that drive their business. And if you think about, someone who's going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday season, like they have a lot of ad spend, right? And so we want them to be able to use Clearco as a funding source so that they can pay Google and they can pay Meta, because those are the things that are going to help them grow their business.
Yeah, there's like an immediate integrity in earmarking it to those things, right?
Correct.
Rather than
Correct.
just like, yeah.
Was that something that was natural? They're like, oh yeah, this is the next step. This is why we're going to do that. Or was it something that came out of the came out of the blue? It was kind of like a curveball. You're like, wow, we never expected this, and so we're actually going to lean into it.
Yeah, I think what we saw, we had another product, which again was focused on financing these entrepreneurs and founders. But the product was much less about, discrete invoices that you had to fund. It was more along the lines of what I described earlier, which is someone comes to Clearco, they say, I want you to advance me some money. And we underwrite them and we do all the, the neat analytics that we do on their businesses. And then we just tell them, yeah, we'll give you $100. Now, the founder doesn't necessarily know what they're going to use that for. And what we found over time was it was better for both them and for us, because like the way we run our business, the invoice funding product is easier to administrate. And it's easier. We have to finance the advances we're making. It was easier for us to finance if we shifted to this kind of, okay, I have discrete invoices. I want to fund these discrete invoices. And what we found from our customers is we've had lots of conversations where they've said, the old model, you gave me capacity and a slug of capital, but I didn't always know what I wanted to do with it. And the way it always works is as soon as we give you that number, as soon as any provider like Clearco gives a customer a number, you start paying on it, right? There's a cost associated with that capital. So what we see now is someone uploads an invoice and they say, okay, this is a very specific business case, very specific business purpose. I need to get this invoice funded. And then, they upload it, they get it paid, they get inventory, or they get marketing and they get marketing paid. And it has very like concrete advantages and tangible advantages for them.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's as you were describing it, it made such good sense to me, which I wasn't quite, maybe because I'm not an e-commerce owner, but the idea of paying my invoices, vendor invoices, didn't hit me as smart as like when you just described it, because what it's doing, and I also know there's an aspect where it can flatten out, it can level out some of the payments, like you're feeling a consistent financial obligation, if you will, month after month, as opposed to, you might get hit with a whole bunch all at once. And so it takes that manic nature out of it, kind of automates it, if you will, that you have funds now that are earmarked, so that channel is kind of taken care of.
Correct. And I think, one thing it also does, which is I think fantastic for entrepreneurs or founders who are stretched really thin in almost all cases, is it enables them to plan like in a very predictable manner. So they say, okay, I know Clearco's there, and I know that they've told me I can upload invoices totaling this amount. Now, when I have the invoices, I'm going to upload them and I'm going to get them paid and I'm going to receive product, or I'm going to pay for marketing spend. And so I think what we've learned since launching the invoice funding product in September of 22, what we've learned is that our customers are ecstatic about it. And they're really pleased with the predictability it gives them in terms of, paying their vendors, managing cash, because managing cash for businesses that are growing rapidly, that are always starved for cash and starved for growth capital, is critical and essential for them.
Yeah. Probably the primary reason I start a business is because I'm passionate about something, right? And so there's an emotional element. There's a vision, and the money, the financial issues, the payment of bills, is kind of part of the package, but it may not be my core strength. It might not be my sweet spot. And so what I'm imagining is how the funding and the way the funding is earmarked to specific mission critical spend kind of takes that off your plate.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so you can apply, like I think you were using the language of that they can plan. Like I can start to think about my business. I'm not running around
Yeah.
like a lunatic
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to
And
put
I
out
think
fires.
yeah.
And I think that to me is something that would be great in the messaging, to really understand that
Mm-hmm.
that the payment of my vendor invoices is kind of like not outsourcing, but it is in a way. It's allowing Clearco to help me manage that, so I can put more of my bandwidth where I want to put it.
Yeah, I think the way that by which you upload your invoices and pay them is very
Right.
easy. And the way that
Mhm.
we work with customers is not only is it characterized by ease of use, but it's also characterized by speed. So people can come to us very quickly and we can provide financing capacity in very short order. It could be a day or two, which is also extraordinarily valuable. And like you said, like one thing you can usually count on with these founders is they're super passionate, right? They've got an awesome product that they love, that they want the world to see. They have customers that love their awesome product, but maybe like top of their list isn't being a controller or a treasurer for their business. And so what we've heard again and again from customers is they're like, listen, the old days where you or other capital providers, it could be a VC investor. You just give me a slug of cash, and then I'm awash in cash, and that cash has a cost, and I need to figure out how best to use it. And maybe in that case, I'm not using it in a disciplined way. Maybe I'm being maybe I'm kind of frittering it away. Versus here, like a bill comes across and they're like, okay, in order to get that inventory from overseas, I've got to pay that invoice. So I will upload the invoice to Clearco. They will fund it, and shortly the inventory will be in my in my warehouse.
So, when it's understood that way, it feels so supportive. So like that emotional element in the relationship kind of automatically emerges. Like you get that when you start to understand the process, And I think that to me would be a wonderful way to, without blurring what you're trying to say about the product, that would elevate that product. So it's beyond the function of what it does, but it's the impact that it makes.
Correct. And I think that's that's really how we win customers and maintain loyalty, is by being a trusted partner for them. It's like we want to be someone that they can count on. Obviously, when we make an advance, we want to make sure that the customer pays that advance back, of course, because that's how our business is successful. Right. But when we talk to customers, number one, we're just very direct and transparent, and we want them to understand how the product works and how they can use it. But over time, we want them to think of Clearco as just very reliable, fast, reliable. It's easy. All the things that, an entrepreneur or any founder wants when they're running their business. They're looking for ease, not friction. They've got enough friction in their lives, and they've got enough friction running their businesses. So what we want to be able to provide them, ease of use, where they may not have it in other aspects of their business.
So some of the things that used to be in your messaging about
let's get into that. I'm curious about
well, I think going way back, right? They did kind of an anthemic video piece about own your story, and it was about not losing equity in your baby and all that. And then what really caught my attention was that AI is it's gender colorblind. I mean, that was just a beautiful kind of story that kind of landed on your lap, right? You're like, holy smokes, look at this, right? And so those were wonderful stories. Are those by necessity kind of fading away in service of some of the more tactical messaging? Or
well, I think that's a fantastic question, Brian, because that was something that we emphasized a lot in the past, and it's still true today. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
Like, it's still very, very important to us. And when we talk about, like, we never talk about providing flexible capital without also using the word fair. So the beauty of our approach is it's algorithmic, it's machine learning based, and it doesn't care what sex you are or gender, doesn't care your ethnicity, it doesn't care about anything like that. What it cares about is that you're running a sound business, and that if we extend capital to you, you'll be able to use it intelligently for growth, and it'll make your business stronger, and you'll be able to pay that capital back to us. So it's not at all different in that respect. And so we love the fact that in serving all of these founders, we're doing it kind of like on a colorblind and otherwise kind of indifferent to someone's background, et cetera. Like, we fund lots of people who don't have college educations, but great businesses and great products. And we fund people regardless of their gender. So that remains a key element of what we do.
So you're going to be very happy, Andrew, that we recorded this, because there was a nice riff in there that you had. That was good, man. That was like a pep rally. That got me excited. That's good. Well, I'm glad, because those, it's always important to have, branding is essentially an emotional relationship.
Yes.
Right? And so that emotional element, I would personally, I would want to dial that up without because right now when I landed there, I go like, wait a minute, I'm paying invoices. That is extremely technical. But the way you explained it, it's taking a load off. It really is. And so it's in service of, we know what these e-commerce owners, we know their heart, we know their mind, we know what kind of animal they are. And while they're all different, they're all the same in this way. And that is, they're passionate, they're chasing a vision, they want to go after something. They're making money. Money may not be their core strength, but that's where we come in, and we give them the strength they don't have. And I think that's
it's absolutely, I mean, it's absolutely true. And it's absolutely critical that we continue to emphasize that. I spent many years working in finance in New York City for a few banks, and spent a lot of my career sitting on trading desks. So I have to make sure that I'm always paying attention to that emotional connection and the piece that you're describing, where and the best way for me to understand this is always just to talk to customers, because when I talk to customers, it becomes really tangible to me, where someone is super committed to what they're doing. They are breaking their backs to do it. They're taking enormous risk. They're growing a business to satisfy like an entrepreneurial need and to take care of their family. So for me, that's when I'm always reminded most of the North Star and the need to basically find ways to help these people grow their businesses. It's what's most exciting to me. I think it's easy to lose, like it's sometimes easy to lose track of that if you're always thinking about, okay, a customer comes to me, I need to understand exactly what their financials look like. I need to understand how creditworthy they are. You can get lost in that. And I think we're always protecting ourselves against that, because that messaging, number one, it's important for our brand. It's critical for our brand that people understand that they're not just some like cold-hearted financial robot dispensing capital, but rather like they have a true appreciation of my needs, what I'm trying to accomplish, my dreams in starting and growing the business, etc.
The impact, right? You're actually changing lives, right? This is actual real humans doing something, maybe for the first time, maybe not for the first time, but there's a real tangible human story here. And so you have the beauty of AI and humanity kind of working together at its prime, right?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's the thing that excites me most, is that, again, you have people who've kind of like, they've taken a lot of risk in starting these businesses, and we see it every day, and they hustle like you read about, right? Like they work harder than most people trying to make things work. And often they're cutting something out of whole cloth, right? And that's like, a lot of people aren't willing to take those risks. And a lot of people don't have the kind of the courage and the temerity to do that. So when I think about that, I feel even more committed to figuring out ways to support them, because you can't grow a business typically without some capital. You may need just a little bit at the beginning, or you may need a lot for many years. It can vary, of course. And so we want to find ways to support those entrepreneurs as they try to boldly realize their vision.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's like oil in a car engine. You have to have it, or the thing won't work, right?
Yep.
But it's putting, as mission critical as funding is, it's putting it in its proper place. Like there's an ability for everything to be in its right place.
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
And I think there's a beauty in that, which you don't see, you know, financing, whether it's banking or, I mean, I've worked for banks, credit unions, investment, you know, it's, the category has become largely transactional.
Yes.
And a lot of it is because of fintech and, you know, the phone is my dashboard. And then banks feel like they have to create like an emotional campaign, but everybody listening to it or watching it is like, the bullshit light goes on, because you don't know who I am. You don't know. First of all, I haven't even been in your bank for like 3 years, right? I deposit checks on my phone and, you know, just don't screw up. And so it's the fact that this whole category is so transactional. It's wonderful that there's a legitimate, not a manufactured or a contrived emotional element,
Correct.
but it's real. It's real. And, you know, going back to like, we were working for Dime for a little bit, and they could not get their head out of that retail space. And we were trying to get them to understand, like, you are the biggest, like, community bank in New York. And what's really cool is your original mission, like, they were created to serve the immigrants in Brooklyn, because the Western Caucasian European bankers in Manhattan didn't want anything to do with the Italians and all the other trash. And so they started Dime Bank, and they still to this day largely serve immigrants in the 5 boroughs, mostly Brooklyn and Queens. You know, it's a beautiful story. Yep. And so we were trying to tell them how, you know, something like 32% of American workers are self-employed. And that
incredible,
number's
right?
growing.
Yep. I don't think anyone like fully appreciates the extent to which small businesses are the bedrock of the U.S. economy or the global economy. Right. So they're like these founders are starting businesses. They're employing people. They're paying taxes. Those taxes go to fund schools in the communities in which they operate. Like they are integral to the U.S. economy, and they're also the fabric of many communities in the U.S.
Yeah, they're the economic engine of a community, right? The small businesses, and so we were trying to get the bank to be a champion of the small business, right? And in doing that, they will speak to a third of working America who's self-employed, and because that's the archetype hero, right? It's a successful, you know, property business owner. And so I say all that to bring it back to Clearco. I think on some level of your messaging, being the champion for that, you know, and I know it's e-commerce, but you know, in the very beginning, you were saying, who knows, we may go beyond e-commerce at some point. I think there's something cool about the way Clearco comes in and partners with a business owner to give them the funds and the mechanisms to kind of handle, like flatten it out and handle it consistently, so I can focus on what I'm doing and have a better chance at succeeding in terms of not just getting off the ground, but succeeding in terms of scaling.
Yep.
You know,
that's always that's always our focus, and that's always the mission. The mission is we provide, you know, this fair and flexible capital. And, you know, in a lot of ways, we want to see companies outgrow us, right? We want to see our customers outgrow us over time. Like I said, we still have very large customers who use us, but in an ideal world, someone comes to you with a very young business, an idea, a product that works. and you fuel their growth. And then maybe over time they become really, really big. And then they don't need us in the same way. And they can access, more traditional bank lines of credit. And that's okay. That's fine. Like, we're happy to see that happen, because what's that doing? Well, you're supporting a founder, you're creating jobs, you're fueling growth, and you're strengthening our economy, which has all kinds of ancillary benefits.
Yeah, it's like taking your kids to college.
Yeah.
Goodbye with a tear.
Don't come back.
Yeah, right. So is your funnel automatically filling? Are you getting prospects, or do you feel a need to solicit?
We spend a lot of time reaching out. So we do a lot of outbound sales efforts. And in some cases, it may be to customers that use Clearco in the past, and maybe they went away from Clearco, and we go back and we get them and bring them back. So it's a mix, right? There's plenty of organic inbound growth. There's plenty of growth from partnerships and marketing. But today we have a sales team that's very skilled, very capable, and they think about funding these entrepreneurs in the same way that I do. And so they're constantly trying to find the best of the customers,
cool.
The customers that have the best growth prospects, the customers that can make the best use of our capital. So it's a mix of things, but we do spend a lot of time on outbound activities.
Okay, well that's interesting, because when I hear you talk, I think, like, gee, if every prospect could have a conversation with you, that would be nice. But
my close rate, Brian, is 100%. I'm just saying.
There you go.
when I I'm just kidding. Well, I get on the phone with customers frequently, and like, number one, I find it invigorating. Like, it's just exciting.
Sure.
And it's like, it's a great way to take me away from like the nuts and bolts of running the business every day, and get me in front of a customer that's like tangible and I can speak to. And so I think that like that excitement shows and that engagement shows. And then it's easier to, give them capital and have them take your capital when you have conversations like that.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I don't think I understood from the messaging that I've seen over the years, like with the concentration on AI and analytics and making a decision in the quick term sheet. It sounds like there's a robust human factor with the sales people. That you have.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I think people have people have a notion, and everyone wants to do this, but it's hard to do, where you have a completely machine automated, machine learning automated, AI driven kind of start to finish process, right? Whether it's underwriting or customer outreach. So, like, I think people have the promised land would be all of your customers come through your website. There's no human interaction, and they sign up, and you underwrite them, and you advance them capital. They pay you back, and you never talk to them. It's a lot harder in practice than people make it out to be.
Yeah, although that is somewhat the impression you get from the messaging, is that that's how it plays out.
Yeah,
and to know that you actually have a head and a heart that partners with you, I
think what I've found is that customers like to be in touch with us, right? Even if when they're actually uploading the invoices, they're doing it through all of our sophisticated front end technology. Like, they still want to talk to people, and we deepen our relationships with customers through that human interaction. And like, like I said, I don't get on customer calls every single day, but I get on multiple calls a week. And it's good for me, good for the customer, deepens the relationship, and it makes it feel human to them and to me.
I think in terms of how what you offer lands in the ears and the mind of people, I think what we've heard today is a slightly different color than what we got just strictly from the messaging. And so the idea that it's more than just a quick funding, a quick non-equity diluting fund, like that's cool to know, but it is kind of like a little bit of a vending machine. A little bit like, I don't know, it either will or won't. I don't know. It's like apply for the credit card. We'll tell you in 10 minutes, you know?
Sure.
And so it has a little bit of that feel, and that in a way is a disservice to what you really are offering.
Yeah. So how would you guys emphasize the kind of the human aspect or the human story of the brand better or differently based on, I think, our conversation today?
Well, it's kind of what you were conveying about being on a couple sales calls a week, a few, is that it's reinvigorating because it's touching something in you that's deeper than the nuts and bolts, like, right? And for an entrepreneur, paying those vendor invoices, that's a nuts and bolt thing, right?
Correct.
But what you're doing is you're taking that not off their plate, but you're managing it. You're funding it and managing it in a way that it's not distracting or diluting their focus on their business. So that idea, I think, is a little bigger than just the mechanics of funding your invoice.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And what it does, which is beautiful, is it automatically creates healthy use of the funds.
Correct.
And not because somebody needs training wheels, but it just automatically, it's just an automatic benefit of how that product works. So
it's focusing. It's focusing.
Yeah. It's focusing for you. It's taking care, it's flattening out the manic nature of payments due. And I think those kinds of things will resonate experientially, like, because we've all been there, even if you don't own a business, right? All of a sudden it's like, I bought my son 4 new tires for his 4Runner. He had a friend put new brake pads on and the lug nuts weren't done right. And so thank God he was stopping the car. But at one point in the middle of the night, one wheel rolled off down a gully, down a hill, forever gone. A tire and a wheel. And so now I've got to get another tire and a wheel, and it's just kind of like, it's like, I didn't expect to have to fork out that money, and then do it again. And I think even if you don't own a business, you realize how that stuff can just put you on your heels.
Totally.
Just knock you off stride. And this almost takes that away, which is beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, we love the product, and our customers love the product, and we love the ability to serve a very specific need for them, and I think they find it extremely valuable versus just getting a pile of cash.
I think it's the making sure that while the functional benefit is important just for clarity, that what that means to you as an entrepreneur who's chasing a vision.
I think you always come back to that, and you always have to relate to that, and you always have to understand. Clearco always needs to understand that on the other end of that phone, or on the other end of that connection, you have a customer who's a person who's trying to grow something that really cares about being successful and growing something, that is really committed to providing a product to the world. And that's what like I said at the outset, I'm always trying to find ways to remember that and keep that in the fore of my mind.
Yeah. It's really about Clearco in a very functional way helps you realize your dream.
Yep, absolutely.
It's that tandem of function and emotional.
You can't have one without the other. You need them both to grow a business. I think that's what everyone at Clearco understands.
Yeah, and it's good. It helps to understand that product, that it has that very immediate effect because of how it's constructed. Which is cool. Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get that initially, just landing on the homepage. So no, but that's, and that could be me. But I just boy, that's if I were to jump in, that would be where I would want to make sure
that'd be the number one area to focus.
Both of those were coming through.
Yeah.
So it really became without Clearco just waving an entrepreneurial banner, but you were actually doing some of the hard work for entrepreneurs.
Yep. You can't have one without the other, and you gotta connect with your founders on an emotional basis, and then you got to provide them a product that actually makes sense that they need, and that enables them to run their business better and fuel their growth.
Yeah,
Exactly.
got to get you up in Times Square, the Megatron there somewhere.
I'm gonna have to update the Megatron too.
Yeah. No, that's a cool story. Well, gosh, this is fun.
Great meeting you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
and
you
likewise.
for making time.